Besides these improvements we already applied, there are other things we can optimize in our application. For example, we do use this updateObject utility from our reducers. There we call updateObject all the time. Now, if we have a look at our contact data component, there we will see that in the input changed handler, we're also kind of updating objects, the order form and the order form elements in there. So we're also updating objects here. Why don't we use our utility function here then? Right now it's placed in the store folder. I'll now create a new subfolder directly in the source folder, which I'll name shared. And in there, I'll move my utility file into that folder. That of course means that the imports in my reducers need to be adjusted. Now it's imported from one level up, an additional level up, then the shared folder, and then the utility file. So this adjusted import path has to go into all my reducers so that the application then works again. With that, it's now placed in a path where it makes sense, because now we can access it from anywhere in the application without the path looking strange, because why would a general utility be placed in the store folder? And now we can go to contact data and import this utility function. So we can import our update object function from, and now we just go up all the way to the top to the shared folder and there to the utility file. Now we can use update object in this file too, and I want to use it in my input changed handler for updated form element. In the end, we can call update object here and pass my order form and there the chosen control. So I can pass this state order form and access the input identifier as the old object. This is essentially what I want to update, the object I plan to update. And then I need to pass a second argument, which is a JavaScript object with all the properties I want to override. Now these properties can be found here: value, valid, and touch. So I can simply set up value here, valid, and touched, and copy the respective values I used down there without semicolons at the end because we're inside the object. So let's add a comma instead. The same for check validity here, and the same for true untouched. So let's replace the semicolon here too. And now we're updating the form element by taking the old one and updating it safely with the update object helper method. Can now get rid of all these lines of code. And now we want to update the overall order form for a given input identifier. Well, for this, we can now take this code here and create this constant, but create it by also calling update object here, passing this state order form as the old object, and a JavaScript object where we want to configure the new properties. And the new property should be this dynamic input identifier, where we pick a specific control, which we of course store as properties in our order form object in the state, like name, street, and so on. So this is now what I want to update, and the value will be the updated form element here. So now we can get rid of this line too. And now we optimize this a bit, and we're using the utility function we already used before. Well, one note, check validity here, where we use updated form element value. That of course has to be event target value now. And here for validation, it should be this state order form. Essentially, it should be this input identifier here. With that, let's see if that works. If we now save that and go back to our application, let's expand this. Let's quickly log in here, switch to sign in. Now, if I go on to the contact data form, here, let's see if that still works. Looks good. I'm still getting validation errors and so on. So I seem to be required to enter valid information here. So that is a good sign that our order still is processed correctly. And if we send it off to the backend, We inspect this new order. We also see that all the data was passed on correctly. So now this is working. We're using update object. And we're not limited to this file. The auth container is similar. There we also handle a form, and there we also update our controls. So we can also import this function there. Import update object from, and now let's go up to our shared folder and there to the utility file. Now let's grab update object and use it in the auth container too. Here I want to update my total controls. So I'll pass this state controls as the old object which I want to update. And then I'll pass a JavaScript object with the properties I want to change. And here it's this control name where I can just cut this code and paste it in here. Get rid of the old one. And in control name, I again update an object. So I simply nest another update object call where I update this object, which I distributed prior to my utility function. And the properties I pass to this internal object are value, valid, and touched, just like in the contact data. And now again, I'm using update object to have a little bit leaner code and less duplication. Of course, you might find more places in the application where you can use it. Definitely feel free to dig through with the application and use update object or other utility functions you can come up with whenever they make sense.